Johnny, and welcome to episode 60 of the Travel Like a Boss podcast. I'm here with Larissa in what country?
We are in proudly South Africa.
So I never thought I'd be in Africa, but here we are. And I'm really excited because we have finished our store. We did a 30-day new challenge, and we also traveled all around South Africa, over to Cape Town, to Johannesburg, and saw a bunch of animals, ate tons of food, did a lot of cool stuff. Mm-hmm. So this episode is going to be about all that. How was the last 2 weeks?
So firstly, I like how you say we've traveled all over South Africa. And we've basically been to 2 out of the 9 provinces, which is not all over South Africa. And you're never going to travel the whole of South Africa in 2 weeks because there's tons of things to do. And we've unfortunately only had 2 weeks.
We also briefly saw Pretoria, where we picked up our new Thai visa. So we're going to talk about the complications of that as well, and why South Africa is not the best place to do a visa run.
It's probably on the worst list, the top 10 worst places in the world where you can apply for a Thai visa.
But we have good news. So let's first talk about why we came here.
Okay, so I am born and raised in Johannesburg. So this is my pride and joy. Like, my family lives here. This is home to me. Thailand has become home to me, but this has been home to me for 26 years. And we definitely felt like we've been dating for about a year now. And I think that's the next logical step, is for like your partner to meet your family. And it's a lot easier for Johnny to come to South Africa and meet 25 people or 30 people than it is for 30 people to get on a plane and come to Thailand and visit us there.
Yeah, so I met Larissa's entire family. And we're actually at her dad's house right now in Johannesburg. Beautiful place. And it's been cool. And when we flew to Cape Town, met the rest of the family. So it's kind of a big step in our relationship. But also, we also needed to leave the country for a visa, and we wanted to see some cool stuff, and also eat some nice food.
And it's December, it's Christmas time. It's like last year I was in Thailand over Christmas, and as beautiful as it is there, like last year I didn't have as many friends yet because I've only been there for a few months, and the beginning is always the hardest part because you're still trying to get to know a lot of people. So then you miss family quite a bit, and this year I'm very happy to be with my family members and also have Johnny with me because like he's my new main family member, to be at home over Christmas because it's like really it is a nice time to be with family.
So little known fact, I actually haven't been home for Christmas in 5 or 6 years now, and I've been home every 6 months or so, back to the US. But I always go during the summer because I hate the cold. I really cannot stand the winter, and it's also always double the price to go back during Christmas. So I just never did it, and I never thought it was a big deal. But this time I can say that this Christmas Eve, I really remembered why it's nice to be around family. So it was good. And the food, very nice out here.
And it's also because Christmas here isn't cold, so that makes it a lot nicer because that's the best time of the year to come to South Africa in terms of weather. Like December is a beautiful time to come to South Africa because it's really hot. Unfortunately this year, it's been kind of a little bit all over the place. We've had a lot of rain and we've had actually a little bit of cold weather.
But it's summer here during December, which is the exact opposite of the US. So technically, if you guys want to date a South African girl, you can have summer in the US, during normal summertime, right?
Johnny thinks he planned this, and actually I was the one who searched, can I date an American guy to get out of the winter? I was planning on going there.
Oh, see, well, it actually works out perfectly. So during December, Christmas, we can be in South Africa. During July, we can be in the US, or we can just be in Chiang Mai, Thailand, where it's Christmas, well, not Christmas all year, but it's summer all year.
Yeah, or anywhere else.
Yeah, so I'm actually heading back to Chiang Mai tomorrow. So this is kind of to wrap up what we've been doing for the last 2 weeks. So what have we been doing, Larissa?
Okay. Johnny is actually asking that question because he really doesn't know. He's like, I can't answer that. Like, it's just been so overwhelming between your family members. Like, yeah. So before we came here, I asked Johnny, what do you want to do in South Africa? What's like on your bucket list? And he just said, animals. I want to do safaris.
Yep. I'm actually wearing a safari shirt as we speak right now, which Larissa got me for Christmas.
And I was like, okay, easy. That's good, And even though I live in Johannesburg, it's literally within an hour's drive outside Johannesburg. You can go on a really nice safari. And there's quite a few game reserves within an hour or 2 hours drive from Johannesburg. So we started off the trip actually in Pretoria at the Thai embassy. So I don't know if you want to dwell into that
We'll
now.
go into that later. That's boring.
Yeah,
Let's
that's
start with
really
the
boring.
fun stuff.
Okay.
The first animal outing we went to was...
The Lion Park, which is just based just outside Pretoria. And we did a cheetah walk.
So if you guys have seen the photos on either my Facebook or in the show notes of this episode, which is episode 60, we basically walked around with a cheetah, a giant live cheetah around, the bush area, which is kind of just this open plain. But what was super cool about it was we got into this safari van. It's basically an enclosed truck.
Yep.
And on the way there, they said, we're going to pick up Felix. And who is Felix?
So we think, okay, we're going to pick up Felix. It's probably the feeder or, like the
guide.
animal handler, the guide or whatever. And then he's like, as soon as Felix get in, don't worry, he usually paces up and down. And that surely indicated, okay, Felix is not the guide. Felix is a 12-year-old grown cheetah. So they don't drive out to the open where the cheetah is in the wild. They actually bring him in the vehicle with you. And he is literally sitting next to you. He is like your next door passenger. I don't know. He was in the truck with us to going to the destination. And it was surreal. I immediately got scared, to be honest, because it was like, I do not want to be in a truck with a full-grown cheetah that's not on a leash or anything. He's just in there, and they chuck pieces of meat to get him in the truck. So I was
how else are you gonna get a cheetah in the truck?
That was scary though. I was like, oh my gosh, we are if this cheetah decides he's not in the mood for horse meat anymore, then we are all screwed.
So I actually have a video of it, which is really cool. So it's on my YouTube channel, or just go to the show notes of the Travel Like a Boss podcast, or go on my blog, Johnny FD. I'm gonna write a guide, basically Johnny's guide to Africa, even though it's really just two provinces in Johannesburg. But that's what I'm gonna call it, because I don't plan on seeing the rest of Africa this trip. Yep. But the video is super cool. I just edited it. Larissa hasn't even seen it yet, but I think you guys will like it a lot, because it really puts into perspective what it feels like having these animals that close to you.
Yep.
And the thing about these safaris, so there's different types of safaris. When I was back home in the US, and I would watch TV and see people go on safari, I imagine people getting on a Land Rover, or some kind of or maybe a Toyota pickup truck, and just driving through the bush for 10 days to look for lions. Yep. We didn't do that. We went to game reserves or these animal sanctuaries.
It's a sanctuary more than it is anything else. And
so that way you basically get pretty much guaranteed to see most animals. Mm-hmm. The only animal we didn't see in the wild or during the game reserves, because a lot of these are still very big, so you still drive around, you still look for things. Unfortunately, we didn't see the rhino in the wild. Yep. But I did see one, just kind of one of the baby ones. So that was cool. But what was nice is a lot of animals I wasn't really expecting to love, or, it wasn't even on my radar. Those are the ones that were my favorites. So the cheetah, I never thought, before coming out here, I didn't think, I want to see cheetah. But that ended up being one of my favorite animals.
These animals are extremely interesting once you get to learn the facts about them. They are beautiful to look at. But so you always have two options. You have a self-drive option where you can take your own vehicle.
Don't do that.
Baby, you're so rude. Don't do that. Larissa can't even get it. Okay, no, I'm just joking. So you get a self-drive option where you take your own vehicle and you pay obviously a little bit less because you just pay per person that's in the car, and you go look for the animals by yourself, which is just as nice because you still get the adventure of spotting, searching for lions, for cheetahs, for etc. But then you get the safari option, which is a lot more expensive. It's usually double to 3 times the price of a self-drive. But you get a personal guide and you go in an open vehicle, which makes a very big difference. You are higher up because it's a big truck, so it's easier to spot the animals. And the personal guide gives you so much information that gives you a higher respect for all the animals that you see. Because if you keep seeing buck and antelope the whole time, eventually you're like, oh, well, it's another, antelope, it's another buck.
To us, it's a deer. We don't even know what the difference is. There's gazelles and impalas, and what else?
There's sables. There's so many things.
And to us, they kind of look the same. You can have a book or a guide. You can even maybe look it up. But when you have a trained guide, a safari, a ranger basically telling you the backstory, the history on all this stuff, it makes it so much better. So I would say 100% is worth it, especially if you're driving there in a normal car. So if you have your rental car or a Kia, or even if you have a nice car, I wouldn't do it because it's not as comfortable as being in a big open aired, Range Rover that they provide. And you have the guide that teaches you all this stuff. The only time I would ever self-drive is if I had like a Range Rover, like a big proper car. But if you can afford that, then you can afford paying for a guide. So 100% don't cheap out, do the guide. Especially because the last thing you want to do after driving 2 hours from the city over there is to sit in the car for another 2 hours, look for stuff.
And majority of people who come here is probably going to have a rental, and you're probably not going to get the most expensive rental anyway. And you are going to mess up that rental. Like, I was so happy. At first, I really considered doing the self-drive. I told Johnny, I'm like, I don't want to spend that much money on the safaris because to me, I just see that price and I'm like, that's quite expensive. And he insisted. He's like, we're not going to do this any other way. We're going to do this the real way, the African way. And eventually when we went through the field, I was like, thank the Lord I did not take my poor Kia Rio through this, because damages on my car would have been more than the actual safari price.
Yeah, definitely. So that's going to be tip number 1 is always opt for the drive option. And a lot of times you do have to call ahead or you have to plan ahead. So these are things that, if you do come out to South Africa, plan your trip ahead. I'll have links to all the places we went to, the places that I would recommend you guys going to. Now, unfortunately, if you don't have a South African girlfriend or boyfriend, it's a lot harder. Yeah.
They're really nice people today. It's like they're kind, they're warm-hearted, friendly.
They actually are very, very nice people.
At SouthAfricanGirlfriend.co.za.
No, don't go there. That's probably some spam.
Like some Nigerian guy sitting selling South African girls.
All right. So edit that part out.
Step number 2.
So by coming here with a local, it is so much easier. If I had to come here just as a tourist, if I didn't know anyone, it would have been 3 times the price because the combination here is going to be super expensive. Transportation is going to be super expensive. So your option really would be to sign up for these safaris where they pick you up, drive you, 2 hours to the actual venue, and then you'd have to spend the night there for a few nights. But by knowing a local, you can, basically stay there in the house, drive an hour and a half in the morning out to the safari, spend the whole day, and then drive back. And it's so much easier, so much cheaper. So I don't know if you can couch surf out in South Africa or that's even a thing, but 100% see if you have a friend of a friend or a relative or someone that you can stay with, because it makes it a million times easier. And places like, I would say, Thailand or Borneo or all these other places we've been to, I would much rather just do it on my own than, stay with locals all the time. And that's why I don't do couch surf or anything like that. But South Africa is one of those places, it is so much better to have a local.
Mm-hmm. Right. And I think a lot of people who would travel here anyway, you're not going to stay like in the south of Johannesburg where we are based now, because this is just, where families...
Like a residential
area. So, like, tourists are never going to come and stay here. And I think a lot of people would actually live for a few days, stay at the game reserves, on-site, actually. So you have more time there as well, spot more animals. We literally made them day trips, but you can do it 2 days, a minimum at least. You can, definitely. But
this is a travel hack. So if you go in for the day, it is literally a 20th of the price of staying there. Because when you stay there, even if you stay in one of the safari tents, it's very expensive. It's almost like, it's basically a honeymoon place to go. Yep. That's why when you see on TV, people go on safaris are always these rich old guys. Yep. But one other big benefit of staying with a local is the food. All right. So what they call a barbecue is a braai. And this is one of the best things about South African cuisine is people barbecue all the time. Steaks and barbecue is basically what you eat when you're here.
Johnny was telling me the other day in the car, he's like, I've never thought I would say this, but I think I'm getting tired of having steak. And I don't think there's any other country in the world you could possibly go to where you feel that you are having too much steak. And it's just because I think South Africans could live on meat, because they have boerewors, like sausage, and like chops and like steaks or whatever. You can have it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Every restaurant we've been to, the main part of their menu is, do you want filet mignon, do you want T-bone steak, or do you want sirloin? And then a lot of places have cool options. You can have like ostrich steak. You can have what did I have the other day?
Ribs and chicken and ostrich steak combo.
Yeah.
Like you can have all 3 if you want to.
And the ribs here are very good. So I probably had ribs, 7 times out of the 2 weeks we've been here. I also had a cool impala steak as well as a Kudu, which I don't actually know what that is.
Okay, we're going to look that up for you to show you exactly what you eat.
It's probably like a big
Yep.
deer-looking animal.
Very much. Very big.
But very delicious, actually. The other thing that people eat all the time is called...
We didn't actually see kudu when we went on the safari, so that's
Oh,
why
okay.
we didn't see one at all.
That makes sense.
So.
But the other thing that they eat a lot is something called biltang, which is basically beef jerky,
Yeah.
but slightly different. It's not as dry. There's biltang that's like, it's almost kind of like still wet.
Yep.
The thing I can most closely relate it to is if you ever had Chinese barbecue pork, that red stuff that they slice, that's kind of juicy, but it's been barbecued and a little bit dried. It kind of tastes like that.
Yep. But you get varieties of biltong, so you can get like the dried meats that Johnny would prefer because he doesn't like eating raw meats. And for me personally, I prefer wet biltong, which is, like he says, it's like cutting up basically a medium to rare done steak in smaller fine pieces and having that as a snack
In a package.
in a package, yeah.
Yeah, so you'll have a lot of meat when you're here. So if you're not a meat eater, don't come to South Africa.
We're not very vegetarian friendly, I want to say, especially not the restaurants. Like, we don't cater. There's hardly ever. Have you ever seen on a menu like a section
vegetable
that's
option.
just dedicated to
No,
vegetarians? There's
definitely not.
a few items on the menu that will have the V next to it, like stating it's a vegetarian option. But then on a menu of 50 items, there might be 4 that's dedicated
and
to
49 of them is
and that's
steak.
like the salad, the Greek salad, the starter bread. That's what you're having. The orange juice.
Which is kind of ironic because, so 2 episodes ago, I had Dave Asprey, the Bulletproof Executive, on the podcast, and his book just came out, and I've been reading it while I've been here. So I've been wanting to get, fully on the diet. And unfortunately, it's a lot of it's kind of just high fat, low carb, but kind of moderate protein. A lot of people have a misconception that the Bulletproof diet is like a high protein diet, but it really isn't. So when I get back to Chiang Mai tomorrow, I'm going to go on a 2-week challenge, and I'm really going to follow the book because I thought I knew what I was doing because I've been technically on this diet for a year now, and I've been following a lot of the principles. I've been drinking Bulletproof coffee, I've been doing all of that, but really I haven't been doing it right. So if you haven't read the book and you think that you're eating Bulletproof or paleo correctly, you're probably not, so I would read the book.
Definitely. Since I've been reading the book, I was like, I can't believe how many things we've just been doing wrong.
Yeah, completely wrong.
Completely wrong. Because we thought that's the way to do it. And the book explains it in so much detail, but it makes it really easy to understand it. There's a lot of scientific terms in it, but then he breaks it down and he tells you in plain English, this is what you should eat and this is what you shouldn't eat. Because to me, at the end of the day, even though it's important to know like the science behind it all and what it does to your body, I want it in simple terms where it tells me, okay, eat this and stay away from that.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, that makes it a lot easier for me to understand. And that's what I love about the book. It clearly gives you guidelines, what is good and what isn't good.
That's true. But one cool thing about being out here, or just being on vacation, is trying all the different local foods. So it's, aside from all the steaks and the weird gay meats I've had, I also had something called boboti.
Boboti, yes.
What is that?
So that's a mince and egg dish that they bake in the oven. That's basically the main ingredients is mince in it. It's grounded beef. And unfortunately, we had boboti at a really nice traditional restaurant, which wasn't as tasty as it was meant to be. So I don't know if Johnny would ever recommend anyone.
What's the place called?
Moyos.
Moyos. I would say go there kind of expecting it to be like Hard Rock Cafe of Africa, where you get a lot of the traditional feeling. You get the face painting. They'll come by and wash their hands in this copper bucket. So it's very cool, and the food is okay. So you can kind of read through the menu to what there is, but it was definitely overpriced and the food wasn't as good as you would like it to be. So all the really good food, I would say, would be like the ribs, the different steaks, and also there's a traditional dish that comes in a pot, was it?
Pot. So it's what is that 3-legged pot?
I don't know, like a tripod pot?
Like,
like one of those old school black,
that
casket.
you make over the fire, basically. Yep. You put it over on fire and you prepare a stew in it for like literally the whole day. So that's what makes the meat and the food taste that good, because it's been prepared over quite a few hours.
And what's that called?
Potjiekos. So
Okay.
potjie is pot, and
Okay.
kos is food. So it's food that's prepared in a pot. Exactly what it is.
It's very good. I think I had an oxtail one. That was delicious. One of the best things I actually ate was at Nelson Mandela's house. Well, actually, near Nelson Mandela's house.
That sounds insane when you say that. Like, it sounds like we went to Nelson Mandela's house, like, just as a visit, you know, like, for his family or whatever. Like, you say it like, well, we had food at Nelson Mandela's house.
So it was the street in this area called Soweto.
Yes.
And it's kind of known as a dangerous part of Johannesburg that no locals really go to. But
It's changed over the years. It's starting to change. It used to be that, but they're trying to there's quite a few restaurants popping up now, and they're making it's become safer, and people would, you know, risk going there more now than they used to in the apartheid era. It's just like, it also stems from, like, it's a very black area, and then white people would never go in there. But things have changed, and the mindsets behind that it's definitely changing.
and it was your first time going.
It was my first time going, I'm not gonna lie. I was a little bit nervous driving there, just because I've been born and raised, and I've also been taught certain things that's not always true. But like, one of them is like, oh, just never drive into Soweto because you're probably going to be killed, or like, you know, like, you're hijacked as you drive in there. But the fact of the matter is, we went and we had lunch there, we went to a museum there, and we were fine.
Yeah.
It's just that it's very different from what I'm used to seeing necessarily in my neighborhood. It looks completely different. There's lots of shacks and stuff, like the local little houses. It's poor, like, it's not.
So it was definitely funny driving there in her dad's Mercedes. But the food there was fantastic. There's a couple of different restaurants just up the street from Nelson Mandela's house, which I would highly recommend you guys go. If you guys haven't seen the Mandela movie, watch that on the plane on the way there, and then go to his house, and then, you know, you kind of see the culture where he used to live. But that street itself is really cool. Everybody just kind of hangs out in that little area, but if you walk up the hill from it, that's kind of where more the locals, the kind of the new rich blacks, they go and hang out. You know, basically, there's a lot of more money coming into South Africa, and a lot of the Africans that live here also start, you know, they now have a lot of money as well. So, but they want to keep to the roots. So it was when we were eating there, a lot of people had a lot of money that was eating there, and the food was so good. The dessert that we had there.
So the street name is Vilakazi Street,
Okay.
and it's a very famous street in Soweto because Nelson Mandela's house is there, and Desmond Tutu's house is also there. So it's two Nobel Peace Prize winners who both has won the Nobel Peace Prizes, who lives in one street. That used to be their houses.
Yeah.
I don't think that they live there. That was where they lived with their families before, I mean, you know, like, they got bombarded by people with fame and stuff.
And it's the only street in the world where they've had two Nobel Peace Prize winners on the same street. So that's cool in itself.
And both their houses are turned into museums now. So it's a day outing where you could literally go have lunch, and then you can take a walk down to Nelson Mandela's house first, and then a little bit further down, you can do Desmond Tutu's house.
Yeah. So I would say that was super cool to do. What else did we do that was cool? So basically, we did a lot of animal stuff. We went on 3 different.
So there's one thing that Johnny doesn't even remember we did,
Okay.
and this is purely because, like, that wasn't as much of an interest to him. But if you go on, like, TripAdvisor or things to do in Johannesburg, or what must-see attractions in Johannesburg, the number 1 attraction actually is the Apartheid Museum.
Oh yeah.
Okay, which is next to a theme park, so you can actually do, like, if you want to have a little bit of fun, which is, like, it's called Gold Reef City, and there's quite a few cool rides there, and it's not expensive to go in, and it is fun if you enjoy things like that. But with regards to the Apartheid Museum, like, that is the number 1 advised thing to do in Johannesburg. I don't think it's everyone's cup of tea, because at the end of the day, it is a museum, and there's a lot of reading. And if you have no idea of the history of South Africa, you're going to be bored out of your mind, because you're not going to have respect for it. And so when this was my first time going there as well, and I walked through there, and there's like a few times that I literally got tears in my eyes, and I was very close to crying, because it literally touched me, a lot of those people, what they've done for our country and who they are and what they've been through. But for someone who has no idea who they are, and they even just trying to read all of that information, it's
a lot of
information
info.
overload. You're trying to learn 60 years of history and events in an hour walk. So it's not going to happen.
But one really cool thing that they have you do right away that really kind of almost kind of summarizes and gives you that feeling of what it was like is when you go in, they give you tickets, but for separate entrances. So you can be a family of 4, and let's say you're all white, but 1 or 2 of the tickets will say colored or black on it.
Yeah, or non-white.
Or non-white. And then you have to go into separate entrances, and then you basically are separated from your family for the first 15 minutes of the tour, which it doesn't sound like that big of a deal, but when you're there and it's unexpected. Sorry, I just spoiled it for you guys, but it's unexpected, and you're like, what? I came here with my girlfriend, I came here with my family, and you guys are splitting me up now. Like, why are you doing this? And then all of a sudden you realize, this wasn't a choice for other people either.
This was a reality. I mean, they got also labeled without any never say in it. Sometimes it was purely based on the way they looked, and I think most people know, but the apartheid separated people into 4 main groups, which was whites, blacks, Asians, and coloreds, I think, right? I'm talking under correction here now.
I think so.
Or was it Indian and colored?
I think it's Indian. I don't think Asian was on
Sorry,
there.
it was Indian. I'm looking at you and I'm like, I'm just like putting you in the category.
So, I mean, that's the confusing feeling, because if I was here during that time, I don't even know what category I would have been under.
So it's Indian and colored.
I would have either been under Indian or colored, and there's actually a chance that they would have put you under something else too. So, it's kind of very arbitrary, and it was I'm not too big of a history buff, but I was glad we went, because it did teach us a lot about what it was like there. One kind of really interesting thing that I learned when I was out here is actually, so there's a comedy sketch by a colored comedian, which I'll ask Larissa what that is about later. But basically, in the U.S., 99% of African Americans have some kind of mixed blood in them, and just and that's kind of just the way it is in our culture. So in Africa, or South Africa, they would all actually be labeled colored and not black, and I didn't realize that there was even a separation. There's an entire separate community of black people and colored people. And when I say, if you're African American basically you would not fit in with the black community here. They would put you in a total separate category and say, no, you have 1% white blood in you. You're not black. You're colored. And it's this crazy minority. And a lot of them live in Cape Town, which is one of the provinces we visited, and it has one of the highest crime rates of South Africa. So all the a lot of the murders that you hear about, all the a lot of the craziness you hear about actually comes from the colored community. And I understand why there's they live like that. It's because they are they really don't feel like they belong in any of the sections. They're like, well, either label me as white or label me as black. Don't put me in this separate section. Saying just in limbo. And what was that comedian that had that sketch? Is that colored comedian that said he didn't, now when he's in the U.S., he thought he was going to be finally black?
Trevor Noah. So if you haven't seen one of his stand-ups, please Google him, Trevor Noah.
I'll put a link to it.
And he's a South African comedian who speaks openly about what it feels like to be South African and be colored and be labeled not as white or not as black, but how do you feel when your mom's white and your dad's black, or other way around. And he's also a very political comedian, so he always talks on politics in South Africa. So I don't think it would be funny to everyone, because if you don't have a real understanding about what's happening.
But that one sketch was funny, because basically, not to give too much of it away. Well, you guys might not watch it anyways, but basically he said that in his entire life growing up in South Africa, he was labeled colored, and and he's like, yeah, when I go to the US, I'll finally be black, and I'll finally feel like I belong somewhere. And then when he got there, everyone thought he was Mexican. Yep.
He's like highly disappointed. He's like, how can you make me Mexican? I've traveled so far to be black. All
right. So aside from all that, South Africa, cool place. But before we came here, we actually were just on vacation not that long ago.
It feels insane. It's like, it feels surreal
So if you look at my blog, or if you listen a couple episodes back, we just came back from Borneo, and we were there for like 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. It was a long trip.
3 weeks.
And we were back in Chiang Mai for only 30 days.
Yep, exactly 30 days, because that's what our passports allowed us, our visas allowed us to be in the country for.
So the reason why we chose the 30-day window was because if you go back if you fly into Thailand for less than 30 days, you don't need a visa at all. And we wanted to be back for 35 days or 40 days, but it just didn't make sense to have to, to arrange a new visa for that. So we're like, okay, let's just go back for 30 days. But we wanted to make it worth it. We didn't want to just go back and rest for 30 days and have 2 back-to-back month-long vacations. So when we went back, we decided, let's do a 30-day new store challenge.
It was the perfect timing because we've just relaxed for 3 weeks. We feel refreshed and everything. And then when we went back to Chiang Mai, we went back to Pine Space full days. Every day we tried to be there from 7 to 4. And at the end of the day, it started being from 8 to 4, but it was still a full day for us. I mean, that's more than majority of time that we work. And it definitely helped that we were 2 people working on the store together because Johnny knew a lot more about the technical side and the design aspects where I could help a lot more with the page writing, the descriptions, etc., and finding the products, finding the suppliers, etc. But it was nice because in the evenings, Johnny did most of the phoning for suppliers, but I stood up, I was awake with him in the evenings, and it allowed me to do a little bit of extra work as well and just be there as a support system.
Yeah, so normally it takes about 2 months to start a new dropshipping store. So a lot of people ask, like, if they sign up for something like Andal's course, how long does it take to actually have it up and running? I always told people 2 months because that's what it took me for my first store when I knew nothing about it. And from all the people I've met who have also done it, who have been literally hundreds of people now, on average, it takes about 2 months for them to start watching the videos, figure out what dropshipping is to make their first sale.
It's because it's all new. Like, you have to learn the concepts and you need to figure out stuff. And even though he gives you 99.9% of everything, there's still going to be certain things that you need to search for and ask someone else for help or Google, how do I do this? Because you're not going to figure it out the first time around.
Yeah, like some examples would be Anton will say, okay, upload your. Here's how to set up a dropshipping store, but he's not going to teach you how to resize an image because those are things that you could figure out on your own. You might know it already. You probably know it already, or you can just Google it. So things like that, if you're not super technical, then you have to spend some time doing that. But I would say it's cool because Larissa, when you started, you weren't very technical at all.
I don't know if I am technical now. You make it sound like I'm really technical now, but I definitely know 100 things more than I did a month ago or 2 months ago. It's really if you watch the videos and you just follow step by step and don't skip ahead like he says, and you do everything according to what he asks you to, you are guaranteed to have success. The only thing you need to know is that there's going to be obstacles along the line. And I think we had this conversation before, and I said to Johnny, I think some people don't make a success out of it because that first stumble block, you're like, well, I can't do it. I don't know how to, let's say, resize the image. And that might sound ridiculous now, but when you have to upload it onto a page and it keeps popping up and it looks retarded on your page, it's frustrating and you don't know how to do it. Then you'll have to Google search, how do I do this, or how do I edit this? And I think if you are the type of person who's not going to give up the first time something doesn't go exactly according to plan, then you'll be perfectly fine.
Yeah, and that's why I'm actually happy that Anton raised the price of the course, and because he wanted people to be serious about it. He didn't want people to sign up and be like, oh, this is going to be an overnight easy thing that someone's going to hold your hand to teach you how to do it. But what's nice is he really does go step by step and teach you everything that you need to do. And he actually, one of the reasons why he raised the price of the course is because he's now doubled the amount of videos in there. So he's added a lot of videos on how to design your store and more niche section videos, because that's kind of one of the biggest places that people get stuck, is just for trying to figure out what a good niche is. But here's the secret: is no matter what your niche is, at some point you're going to think your niche sucks. Because even though we thought we had picked a good niche, we thought we did good research, at some point we're like, oh man, this is hard. Suppliers aren't calling us back. We don't know what to do. And we had all these excuses. It was Thanksgiving time in the US. So a lot of places are closed, or it's almost the end of the year, and we just, there's a couple of times where we stumbled as well. And for maybe, let's say 4 or 5 days, we just didn't do anything at all. We're just like, let's wait until we get to South Africa when the time zone's better, or let's wait until whatever. But it was, really thank goodness that we had told the world that we're going to try to have this up and running within 30 days. So we had a time constraint. Yep. So if you guys do it, I would say, don't do 30 days because that's a little bit too short. I would say give yourself a time constraint of 60 days. So in the next 60 days, I'm going to watch all the videos. I'm going to do the niche research. I'm going to set up my store. I'm going to call suppliers, and I'm going to get approved and have my store just basically up and running in the next 60 days. And that I would say, I would guarantee that if you actually spent a couple hours a day doing it 5 days a week, you could have it up and running.
But the beauty of it all is if once you've done it once, like I looked at Johnny and I'm like in awe, because I'm like, how do you do it that quickly? How do you do it that fast? Like, how do you know all these things? And he said to me, but remember, I've opened like 3 or 4 stores. And the nice thing is once you've battled with it once, and the next time and after you've opened 1 store, and there's nothing that stops you from opening a second one or a third one or a fourth one. And every time you are going to open a store, it's going to go 10 times faster, a lot easier. There's going to be a lot less frustrations along the line, because it's easy for me to speak about it because this is the first time I'm doing it with Johnny, but I see how quickly he does it. And then every time I feel a little bit, not intimidated, but I tell him, like, I feel a little bit retarded and stupid because I'm taking forever to upload these things and I'm taking so long. And then he keeps reminding me, he says, remember, I've done this 4 or 5 times. And that's the nice thing. Once you've opened one, there's no reason why you can't have multiple incomes and open 3 or 4 stores. It all depends, obviously, on the time that you want to invest at the end of the day working. But, I mean, that's a personal preference. That's on what your goals are at the end of the day.
So one of our goals actually is to get the store completely up and running, optimize as much as we can, have it be a nice source of income for both of us, and then have Larissa just open her own store, maybe based in South Africa. And do you think that, so now that you've been through the process once, let's say I wasn't even in the picture and you were just going to do it on your own, do you think you'd be able to do it now?
So I definitely think it would have taken me, to be very blunt and very honest, at least 3 times as long.
Okay.
I definitely do think so, because I also don't have much of a blogging background or anything like that. So the most I did on internet was Google information or Facebook. So it would have taken me at least 3 times as long. But combined with like the videos and then the forum because I don't post in there at all. But the nice thing is, even though I'm not very social on forums and things, there's a lot of information on there if you go back into the old questions that they've asked. So there's a lot of times when you do have a question, 10 people have already asked it. So even if you are the type of person who doesn't enjoy going on forums and you're a little bit shy and you feel uncomfortable asking people all these things, the odds are that someone has asked that question multiple of times and 10 people have answered it for you already.
I mean, to be honest,
the information is out there.
People actually prefer that. So on Anton's forum now, that you get access to when you're part of the course, there's, as Larissa said, there's, the questions have been asked already. There's not really anything new that you can ask that hasn't been asked already. And people would actually prefer you just do the search and read it on your own. And then if you really need to ask a question to clarify, then just ask the same question, that 20 people have asked already. So the way Larissa is doing it is actually better, I would say. So you don't need to be super social on the forum, but it is nice because then people want to help. Yeah. People are super helpful in this community.
But not everyone's got the same personality. We've had this conversation multiple times. Johnny loves going on forums and he loves helping and he loves being active on those things. And that's perfect, but my personality is the exact opposite, where if I'm going to be social with someone, I want your face in front of me. If it's a photo, then I'm probably not going to do the effort to get to know you. And it's a personality thing. It's personal preference, and it just means that the course is optimized for both of us to be able to use. So it's not that if I'm not the type of person who's going to jump in there and make 100 friends online, that I'm not going to be able to start my store.
That's true. So what do you think was the most difficult part of our last 30 days starting that store?
So obviously finding suppliers is difficult because you never know what's going to happen. It's kind of a shot in the dark. You can phone suppliers who's very open-minded, very friendly. Sometimes it's just the time of the day, time of the month or whatever, and you get them at the wrong time and they're just not friendly and they don't want to help you. And other nights we phone and we get 5 people in a row that's like, yes, that's no problem, we're sending you documentation. And then I'm like, how did that happen? Last night we phoned 20 people, we didn't get 1 supplier. Tonight we phone 5 and we get 5. So it's a bit frustrating sometimes because you don't know what to expect until you are phoning. So phoning suppliers is definitely a difficult part. And then to me, the second most difficult, or close to number one was once everything's up and running, is waiting to make a sale and waiting to see if what you've done the last 3 weeks was actually worth it. Because now you don't know if people are searching for those things or if we've done something wrong. And it took us longer than we expected to make a first sale. And I was worried. I literally, for a second or two, I thought, we've invested all this time and it was a waste of time. And the only thing I kept reinforcing in my mind was, it's never a waste of time because you've learned so many things. And if you need to open a new one now, it's going to go a lot faster. And Johnny's going to be able to dedicate a lot more things to my side because now I've learned these things. So it's not a waste of time. But your pride takes a knock because you do want to be able to tell people this is working.
Yeah, especially, you always want that first store to be success because you did spend a lot of time, putting into it. And even though Larissa's right, where the second time it is a learning curve, and the second time it'll be that much faster. You're not always going to hit a home run with your first niche. But the nice thing is, if you kind of do a little bit of research, actually just follow what Anton says to do. Don't try to do it on your own. One of the reasons why I was a little bit worried about this niche is because I kind of swayed away from Anton's criteria when he recommends, the criteria of what niches to get into. He's basically figured out how to have basically 100% success rate if someone actually goes through the process. But I wanted to really try to hit a home run, pick a niche that didn't quite fit his criteria, that may have a huge upside. So I was like, let me just go for it. Let's just try, because worst comes to worst, we'll expand the niche, or we'll rename our store to something else and start adding different products. So it was kind of a waiting game, but a lot of it actually wasn't just waiting for sales. It was waiting for Google to approve our ads. For whatever reason, Google just took their sweet time approving our ads. In the beginning, most of your traffic's going to come through paid Google ads. So that's kind of the first source of traffic. So that was kind of a big waiting game. But what was nice is we had our store completely up and running within the 30-day challenge. And that was our goal, is to have suppliers have the store up. And that way, when we got on the plane to South Africa, we can kind of just let Google do its thing, let them update on their back end, let people search, and hopefully make our first sale while we're in SA. And that morning, I remember when we did get our first sale,
I felt like a millionaire. I felt like I'm ready to retire, and it was like $200. I was like, we're done. We've made it. We're on top of the world. No one can break us down now. I'm like a winner. And I felt so good. I cannot explain the feeling and I had the app on my phone, the Shopify app on my phone. So it was so nice because I literally just checked my phone. I thought it was like a message or like a Facebook notification, which is really not as exciting at all. So it came as such a big surprise. And then I saw this Shopify, you have one new order. And I literally started jumping on Johnny because I was so excited about it.
And I was so excited about it as well, because that proves to me that if you make that first sale, why can't you make a sale a day? Mm-hmm. And so what we learned from that as well is, our checkout system works, the store itself works, people are coming to our store, everything's up and running. And then now all we have to do is kind of add more products, because we still only have 30 something products on the store. Ideally you want over 100. Anton actually recommends in the course to get as many as you can. If you can get 500 products on, you have,
why not?
You have more chances of people buying stuff. I mean, imagine if Amazon only had books still. They would still do well. They would still sell books. But now that they have electronics, they have home furniture, all this stuff, that's why they're a multi-million dollar company now. Mm-hmm. So that's what our plan is going to be as soon as we get back to Chiang Mai, is just phone more suppliers, add more products. But what we've also been doing, we just started doing, is we sat down to look at our analytics and see
Google Merchandise.
Yeah, the Google Merchant Center, and see what products people are actually clicking on. And there's a couple that surprisingly people are looking at. There's a $1,500 item.
That's got 90 clicks in a few days.
Yeah, and we're like, people are interested in this item, and we're showing up for it. People coming to the page. Now all we have to do is figure out, why aren't people clicking buy now? Yep. And I think we have figured that out, because we actually didn't have the supplier name in the description. So even though we had the photo descriptions, it almost looked like we were selling a generic version of it. So now that we have the supplier name, we put in the words authorized dealer. I really think we're going to sell those products now.
I think it's also important to note that like once the store is up and running, it's not going to be, okay, now I'm going to sit back and relax and like money's going to start coming in and orders is going to start coming in. Like our store was up and running, and then we had to figure out why people are clicking on it, but why people are not buying it, because obviously people are looking for those products. So it's been like you have to still keep going at it. It's not just, okay, now I'm going to be on holiday and live a life in Thailand with nothing to like respond to at all.
Yeah, I always try to remind people that, you know, dropshipping to me was the best thing that could have happened to me. It's my main source of income now for over a year and a half, but it's still a job. And that's the honestly, the reason why I don't have 10 stores is because it's still a job. You still have to think about it all the time. And it's, you know, to me, I want a balance of having free time and having enough income, but not stressing too much. Now, what's nice about having Larissa on board now, too, is she likes doing a lot of that stuff.
Yep. I really love the administrative part of things. I enjoy working with the customer side. I'm not really good at the creative aspects and the like web design aspects, which Johnny loves doing. So it's kind of a perfect team in that aspect, because the things he hates doing, I actually enjoy doing. So someone at Punspace laughed at me the other day when I said I enjoy rewriting the descriptions, and I think this guy thought I was like making a joke. And because he started laughing it off, like, yeah, me too. And I'm like, no, seriously, I really do enjoy writing the descriptions. And I think he was like, what? I'm not going to be friends with you. Like, you want to... But that's the honest truth. I really like those things. I find them, like, it's calm, it's relaxing. And I would have an 8 to 5 job still if I can choose to do that the whole day. I don't mind at all. I actually do enjoy it.
Yeah, and you know, this way you still have this flexible schedule. You know, you can still be location dependent. I mean, honestly, we haven't actually worked that much while we've been traveling out here. I mean, my plan was, you know, originally to work, you know, alongside Larissa a lot more. Every morning we were going to dedicate a few hours. But to be honest, I think I've actually worked an average of 30 minutes a day for the last 2 weeks. But the nice thing is money still comes in. We've still been able to pay for a holiday. We've still been able to do all this cool stuff. And when we get back, we can say, okay, let's sit down and dedicate once again. Because, you know what, it is Christmas. It is, you know, we are with our family. You know, we are on safari. So we want to enjoy this stuff and not have to worry about, you know, about things. But what's nice is things don't fall apart. You know, sometimes, you know, an hour before bed, I'll check my emails, fulfill my orders. Or sometimes, you know, I'll wake up in the morning an hour earlier and just do everything. So that, I really do think that is the best part of being location independent.
Johnny's been working 30 minutes a day, and I've been working on sleeping an extra 30 minutes a day. So, but once we get back into Chiang Mai, I know it's going to be back to normal. And the nice thing about it is, like a year ago, when my December holiday was coming towards an end, I was already getting depressed. Honestly, and when I say depressed, I mean serious depression. I was already getting down in the dumps, and I'm like, it's a countdown. It's like a New Year's countdown. I'm like, 2 more days, then I'm back to the office. 1 more day, I'm back to the office. 30 minutes, I'm going to be back at the office. And it was just an awful feeling. But now I know in a week I'm going back to Chiang Mai. And not only am I content with it, I'm happy about it. I start looking forward to it. I'm like, I'm excited to go back because I know we have this store up and running, and I'm excited to work on something that is ours. It's our little baby. I'm not working on making millions for someone else and slaving my own time and my own butt off for it. I'm really excited to go back and work on it again. Yeah,
definitely. And, you know, a lot of the things that we were talking about earlier, saying, you know, it doesn't end. You know, you keep optimizing. You keep making the store better. You keep, you know, doing these things. There's tools out there that makes it so much easier now. There's one that we've been using. I think it's called.
What is it, baby?
So I used to use Lucky Orange, and now we use something called Inspectlet.
Yep.
But what that does, it allows you to see the customers, basically what they're looking at on your site, and it's pretty intense if you think about it. Like,
it records everything the customer does. So you see your store, and you see the mouse like moving. You see exactly what they click on. You see the time they've spent there. It's like sitting next to your customer while they are making an order. That's exactly what it is.
And it's almost like you're looking behind the shoulder and be like, so I guess I see you clicking the About Us page now.
Yep.
And you're reading, you know, you're scrolling down, you're reading it. And now you're clicking the FAQ, you know. And now you got lost somehow. Like, you know, you can't find the product again. Now you're doing a search. And what's really cool about it is you can see why people are not ordering, or when people do order, what they're going through. And these little tools have made it so much easier to figure out, how to optimize your store and how to make more sales. And what's really cool is a lot of these things are free as well. So I have like these free trial links or these free credit links in my recommended resources page. So if you go to johnnyfd.com, on there, that's basically every single thing that I use for all my stores. So what was cool is when we first launched our store, I think we're actually still using it. Google and Amazon gives you $75 in free credit to advertise with. So we made our first sale before that $75 was even up. So all that money that we made from that sale, we basically get to keep because there was no advertising cost for it. And it's nice because it lets you test new things. For Inspectlet, I'm also using the free trial on there. I'm not using, and I think Grasshopper is our phone support number. And all this stuff, we're using the free credit that's listed there. So when people ask, how much does it cost to start up a new store? It really doesn't cost that much. Once, the training course is very expensive, but so is the education. So is, going out and getting a master's degree. So is going, any kind of training.
Yeah, my honors degree up to my 4 years or 5 years of studies was a lot more, and I haven't used it once.
And this, and then if you actually use it, you actually go through the course. It really does pay itself back within the first month. But what's nice is don't think of it as a big 1 month expense. Think of it as if you divided that up by 12, you're like, okay, this is something I'm gonna do for the next year. How much would that actually cost per month? And there really isn't that much. And it allows you to do stuff like this. I mean, South Africa has been incredible. In the guide that I'm going to put up, there's the video. There's, we saw penguins, which is
African
super
penguins.
Cool. We saw lions. We saw wild dogs, which are one of the most incredible things out there. We ate all this great food. I got to see this country that I really never thought in a million years I would get to visit. Being able to come and meet Larissa's family and spend time with her and being in her home, this is really cool. So and if it wasn't for being location dependent, having my dropshipping store, there's no way I'd be able to do this.
And there's a lot of other pros that, I know, Johnny always talks about the travels, but from a woman's perspective, I always think of in 4 years from now, I want to have a family and I want to be able to, because that's just why I still love to work, but one day I want to have kids as well. And this is amazing because if I can keep doing this, I can have all those dreams come true. I can still have an income coming every single month. I can be independent completely, and I can still have a family. I would still be able to spend time with kids. I would still be able to take holidays when I want to. There's so many benefits to it. I know the travel is a major point, and especially for younger people, that's what attracts them. But I definitely think from a woman's perspective, there's so much more to it that is why you would want to do this. Yeah,
100%. And that's the major reason why I'm not just content making the amount of money I'm making now. I want to keep scaling. I want to keep adding these new stores. I want to keep doing other things, having new streams of income, is because I'm thinking, 2 years in the future, when our expenses are going to be a lot higher, when we decide to have kids, when we decide to buy a house or move, maybe relocate back to the US or something, where expenses really are high, but be able to still live this lifestyle. So people, are probably wondering, would you rather live back here in South Africa or would you rather live somewhere else?
So that's very easy for me to answer. If I knew that I could move back to South Africa today and I have safety guaranteed, the same crime levels, let's say, that Chiang Mai has, I wouldn't think twice and I would move back to South Africa. That is the one thing why I don't want to stay here. And so if there's other South Africans listening to it, I know there would be people who argue with me and saying it's not that bad, but it's very different when things start happening to your immediate family. My dad's been hijacked. We've had friends and family members who's been hijacked, and then it becomes very real to you when it's not just on the news anymore and it's happened to a family member. And Johnny knows the long story about that, but when those things started happening to me, it took away. It didn't even happen to me. It happened to my dad and to other family members.
Thank God he's okay. So everything's fine.
Everything's fine. But I started getting panic attacks, and it went really downhill from there. And that's purely because I didn't feel safe in my hometown. I didn't feel safe driving late at night. As soon as it got dark, I'd be like, okay, let's head home.
So if you guys have seen I Am Legend, South Africa is like that movie where in the beginning scene, he's just walking around the streets of New York and everything's fine. He's having fun. He's walking with his dog. He's hanging out. But as soon as it starts getting dark, he freaks out. He's like, we need to get in right now. We need to lock up right now. And that's how it feels like in South Africa. Is during the day, it's beautiful here. Like we've been wine tasting. The South African wine is incredible and it's super cheap. I mean, you can go to any restaurant and a glass of extremely good wine is probably like $4 or something. Yeah. You can get a bottle for $8 and
much less actually. Yeah.
It's insanely, it's insanely good. We went to what's that place called? Speed,
which is in Stellenbosch.
Okay, which is the most famous part of South Africa for wine. It's kind of like the Napa Valley of California, where and the wine tasting. We had a wine and chocolate tasting. It was $6, and they give you 6 glasses of wine and 3 chocolate pairings, so 3 bars of chocolate. And they were incredible. And then they had somebody, that goes through the whole story with you and teaches you how to taste it, how to pair it. And I'm like, a $6 day, like a whole afternoon is incredible. I would do that every day. I mean, that would be, if I was still on Tinder, that would be my go-to date.
But that's why I say I would, without a doubt, I would want to live here. Like, there's so much things to do. It's a beautiful country. People are so friendly.
Yeah.
And I love the diversity. I love how many different cultures there are. Yeah, like we have 11 official languages. We have people are just like, you can meet your neighbors can be completely different from you when they just speak a different language or they had a different upbringing to you. So there's always things to do and you never get bored, which is so nice. And I really do love the people. You always have a special connection with where you are from. But because of like safety issues here still, I definitely do not want to have it as my home right now.
So I 100% agree with Larissa. I think I told Larissa, I said, if 2 things change, I would happily live in South Africa. One is if all of a sudden the crime rate suddenly dropped to normal levels like Thailand or even US levels, then I'd be okay with that. And second, they need Wi-Fi. I cannot believe this country still does not have Wi-Fi in houses or in really anywhere. People still use...
So they do have it at every coffee shop and every restaurant. You can ask for a Wi-Fi password and they will give it to you. But it's not sufficient to sit and work the whole day. Like, that's not a popular trend here. So people don't necessarily go to coffee shops and sit and work the whole day. You go to a coffee shop to have coffee with a friend, or you go to a restaurant to eat with a friend. So that's not a trend yet. So there hasn't been a tremendous need for it. But they do have Wi-Fi at restaurants and at coffee shops. You just have to ask for a password.
Okay.
Like, it's not a sign everywhere saying Wi-Fi here. Like, that's not an attraction feature. Like, at other, like if you go to Borneo, like that is a main attraction feature when the place has got Wi-Fi. They'll put a note on and a sign saying, please come sit by us.
But at people's houses, like even these brand new beautiful houses, Wi-Fi is still not popular. So in the two, in your aunt's house and in your dad's house, both beautiful, modern houses, they still use basically these USB plugged in hotspots.
Okay, so just so that I want to give a little bit more info there. It also depends whose house you are going to. So my dad is a dean at a university who doesn't come home necessarily. He works till 8. So when he comes home, he doesn't need Wi-Fi. He doesn't want it. Yeah. My aunt works for a steel company. She doesn't do anything on the internet except for like maybe Facebook, which she does off of her phone. But if you go to my sister who's 32 years old and her and her husband's house, they have Wi-Fi in the house. It's just a different generation. So you need to take it off of what generation's house you are going to. It's like saying at her grandmother's house, there's no Wi-Fi. They don't use it, so they're not going to have it. But as soon as you go to a younger generation, and like Peter Ben's house, my sister's husband, they will definitely have Wi-Fi.
So
like, without a doubt.
It is available. So that's a good thing. It is a lot more expensive though. Because I remember your sister saying that she spends almost $200 a month on her Wi-Fi, which is insane. Especially, in the US, we still spend a lot as well.
It's their Wi-Fi and their phone bills. It's quite a few things included in the 200.
But it's going to be expensive. But I would say, aside from that, that we can figure out. But it is the safety issue where you can go your whole life living here and nothing bad will happen.
Yep.
But that chance of something bad happening is just, to me, it's just not worth it. It's not worth the risk. And also, one of the things that you'll notice, living here is even though the houses are absolutely beautiful, they're all behind 6-foot fences with
alarm systems.
And electric fences, and it's, I think it's something people would kind of just get used to, and luckily the electric fences actually don't look that bad. They're kind of these thin wires. They're not like these big barbed wires that it probably used to be, 20 years ago, 10 years ago. So they're not that bad looking, but just the fact that that your house has to have electric fence, it doesn't feel as comfortable.
So there's definitely areas in South Africa where you can live without those things. Like we live in a nature estate, my dad and them. So it's an enclosed guarded area. So there's a security gate where you have to pass through. And then people are a lot less intense on burglar bars and things in these areas because it's harder to get in here. But unfortunately, you have to be older and you need to be able to afford it. So you need to be relatively wealthy to be able to live in these areas. So let's say if I have to move back to South Africa, there's no way I'm going to live in one of these because my budget is not going to cut it. I'm not going to have money for that. So I'm going to have to live in a house that's not in a gated area where I'm going to have burglar bars on every single window, which is not cool.
Yeah. It's just not as comfortable as living. And we've met a lot of people who actually used to live in South Africa that now live abroad.
Yep.
And one of the main things that they've said, like we met this really nice family on the plane, and she was saying she has these two.
Karin. Hi, yeah. Karin. I hope you're listening to this.
Yeah, hello, shout out. We met them on the plane. They have two baby kids. And
Luke and Ethan, two little boys.
Yeah, and now they're living in London. And basically she said, when she came back for the holiday, she wanted to stay. She was like, man, this is so nice.
Yeah, both her and her husband.
We miss South Africa so much. And for the cost of living, it's so much lower than it is in England or in the US or really anywhere. It's a pretty good cost of living out here. And she's like, I can either have a really nice big house and be near family if I move back to South Africa, but I'd have to live behind 6-foot fences.
Those were her exact words.
Yeah. And that, to me, that kind of just sums up the whole thing is, do you want, the freedom of knowing, that everything's, it's not like there's no crime in the US or in the UK, but you don't have to worry about things like getting hijacked at a stoplight and having nobody want to help or nobody even want to call the police. And to me, that's actually, to be honest, that's actually the number one thing is if somebody gets hijacked in broad daylight in the US, you would like to think that somebody will call 911. And unfortunately, that's not the case here in South Africa. And that to me is the saddest part of it and the reason why I would not live here. But I do want to come visit.
So another thing why I absolutely love living in Chiang Mai, and this is a personal preference, it's not for everyone, but I love the fact that I can walk everywhere. Mm-hmm. So every single thing we've had to do, we have to drive an hour at least. Because I'm in the south of Johannesburg, mm-hmm. and like I said, this is a family neighborhood. So there's not a lot to do here. This is where people live. And then when you want to do something exciting for the day, you have to drive out. In Chiang Mai, it literally, I can't remember the last time we had to drive an hour anywhere. We walk 10 minutes everywhere, and then we are happy where we go to. Where, you have to get in your car. And it's I think most places in the world is probably like that. But to me, at this point in my life, I really enjoy the fact that I can still, and especially still being single, having no kids, etc. I love the fact that I can just walk out in the mornings and I can walk to the office. I can walk to the mall in the evenings. But that's not a possibility. Yeah,
and another thing about driving here is if you're on, normal streets or normal highways, you're fine. But then one thing that it's kind of hard to grasp, but your GPS would ask you, to get off this exit, and Larissa just won't do it. She'll skip it because she knows how dangerous it is to get off that exit.
If the exit says to me, middle of Khayelitsha, which I know is one of the most dangerous areas, or I'm not supposed to be driving there, I'm not going to take that off. So that's why I always find it strange when tourists come in and get a rental. I'm like, oh my gosh, you do not know where you're driving. I hope you have some clear indication, because I definitely don't think it's safe driving in all the areas.
And to be fair, most of the time, everything's going to be fine. Nothing's going to go wrong.
Definitely.
But what Lewis was saying is, in case something does go wrong, let's say you get a flat tire, or if your car, happens to break down, or if you, are just lost, there's a very, very good chance that, something bad will happen. And when I say bad, it's a different bad than the US. A bad, you might get robbed. Here, they might actually kill you. And it's a very sad thing about it, but it just happens. This is Africa, and so I would say for every pro there's a con. Overall, absolutely beautiful country. I would love to come visit here every year, even.
Thank you, baby.
And I would say this is going to be a place that I want everyone to put on their list of places to visit, especially if you guys can do the safaris and see the animals in the wild and do these amazing things. But definitely not a digital nomad destination.
We haven't had time to do all of the touristy things because we've spent so much time with my family, but I'm definitely going to give Johnny like 4 or 5 things that I really think that if you come and visit our country that you have to make time to see, and I hope that like maybe he can put it in his blog as like under a recommendation source or whatever, but that we would highly recommend. But unfortunately we just didn't have, I've done them before, but Johnny just didn't have time to do them this time around, but we'll just put them in there for if you ever plan on traveling to South Africa.
And this gives me an excuse to come back. And also, South Africans, super friendly. The girls, super pretty, Miss World.
Yeah, we won Miss World, woohoo!
All right, so I would say, yep, date a South African.
Yep, they cook for you, they clean. No, I'm joking.
No,
I'm joking. That's like very stereotypes.
But so far, yeah, super cool. I'm super glad. I honestly, I never really I don't think I've ever met a South African girl before Larissa, so I didn't really know what to expect. I thought I just got lucky, but it turns out most South African girls are pretty cool, so I would recommend going out and searching for them wherever they hang out, maybe at the barbecues.
So funny.
on the safaris. All right, so that's it. Let's wrap it up.
Yep.
If you guys want to check out Larissa's new book,
oh my gosh, I have a new book that I've written.
just
I don't know if
came
the
out.
guys are going to be interested, but if you want to get it for your girlfriend or
I would say there's a lot of female listeners on the podcast as well. So what's the book called? Where can they find it?
It's called The Douchebag Diaries, and it's just a personal journey on the relationships we encounter in our life and then the lessons we can learn from them. So it's a little bit of a personal development book, and on my own personal experiences as a woman in her 20s.
And now it's available on Amazon.
It's on Amazon. I can't believe it. I'm so happy. Like it's such a big accomplishment. I don't think people know how hard it sometimes is writing a book, but I really have put my heart and my soul into it. And everything there is with a place from love, and that I really truly believe will make a difference in someone's life.
I really think so too. So if you are a female listener, definitely read this book, especially if you're in your 20s, or if you know someone who is, give them a copy of this book. I want to give a big shout out to Russell Walker from the Isle of Man, which is in the UK.
Oh my gosh, Russell, I haven't even met you, but I already think you are amazing.
He's the guy who volunteered to edit all of our books. Actually, he's 12 Weeks in Thailand, Life Changes Quick, and now Douchebag Diaries. Such a cool guy. I offered to pay him. He never took a penny. He's just a genuinely cool guy, and he just likes, he likes my books, he likes my blog, he likes the podcast, and he's like, Johnny, your grammar is terrible, which I know.
Please let me fix it for you.
And he's like, let me fix it for you. And I was like, oh, thank you so much. So thank you,
and
Russell.
mine's 10 times worse because I'm Afrikaans. So I really needed Russell. So I'm very excited. I can't wait to meet him one day.
Yeah, me as well. So big shout out to you. Merry Christmas to everyone. I know it's a bit late, but it's 2015 coming
Merry
up.
Christmas.
I really sincerely hope that you guys all make this year the best year of your life. And I promise you, life changes so quickly. If you haven't read the book, it's Life Changes Quick. And basically, it's everything that I know works. Yep. So not only how to get your business in order, how to get your travel in order, your health, your diet, even relationships. Please read this book. Please give it to a friend. It's my passion project, so I want everyone to read it.
We want the world to have it, and we want the whole world to change their lives quickly and become like the happiest person that they know.
Yeah, because I'm honestly happier now than I've ever been in my entire life, partially because of Larissa, partially because of the friends I have, partially because of the freedom, partially because of just finally living to my potential. So guys listening to this, girls listening to this, have a wonderful 2015. Larissa, thank you so much for being on the show, for being such an amazing girl.
I absolutely love being on the show, baby. Thank you so much. Thanks, you guys, for having me again. I really appreciate it.
And peace out from South Africa. Thank you for listening to the Travel Like a Boss podcast. If you want to hear more, including the bonus How to Choose the Perfect Niche episode, join our mailing list at travellikeabosspodcast.com. See you next week, and remember, if you want to travel like a boss, you need to be your own boss. So start your online business today and start living the lifestyle you've always dreamed of.